Hi, this is Mike Smith again. I'm going to do another shooting game this week. This week I'm going to use the concepts that we've learned previously, as well as the new concepts of lists, keyboard input, motion, and position and velocity control. Start out here with a basic template. I just have my width and height of my canvas at 40 by 480. I have the velocity for my cross, the target size, the crosshair size. A few variables here for future expansion that can be changed based on levels, which are maximum targets, a score factor, speed choices for the speed the targets move, and a timer for how fast the targets spawn. Here I just have a draw text position function that I have collapsed because it's a little bit advanced and I'm not going to go into it right now, but you can take a look at the code on your own if you wish. It was inspired by Tom Enos from a post that he made in the forums. Okay, down here we have our draw function, and we just create a frame. We add some labels to say how to play the game, set the draw handler, and then start it. So far we have this. Just some information on how to play and a blank canvas. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is initialize our game and start drawing some targets. So I have this over here in my Notepad++, so I'm just going to copy code out of here as we go through. Okay. Put the initialize code up here, and this just initializes my list of targets, each of their velocities, the size of the crosshair, the score, whether or not the game's paused, and starts the timer. Okay. So we're going to need to get the timer put in, as well as initialize the game. So I'll grab those. Put the timer in here and initialize it. Okay, so now we have the timer. The timer actually calls a function called target spawner. So we'll grab that. And I'll put that in our event handler here. Basically this just checks the length of the target list, and if it's equal to the max targets, then it'll remove the oldest target from the list and add a new one. It's not something that we really have to do, but it'll come in useful later if we expand to have levels in that, and if you miss certain targets then you don't get bonus points or whatever. So this adds each target to the list, so now we actually have to go into draw handler and draw the targets. So we'll grab that code. Draw targets. And we'll give it a test. Oh, I need my update target. Before I get into that, this basically just goes through the target list, and if the timer is running, then that means the game is not paused, and it'll update the position of the target and then draw it. So I'll grab my update target code here. And we'll put that in here. So this basically just updates the target position based off its velocity, and then checks to make sure it's not going off the screen. If it does hit in the side of the screen or the top or bottom, it will negate the appropriate thing so that it bounces off. Okay, now let's give that a try. There we go. Now we have targets spawning and bouncing off the screen. We're looking good. Okay. So now that we have targets, let's put in our crosshairs so that we can actually possibly start shooting the targets here soon. So I need my update crosshairs helper function. This comment should be update cross position. So this does just what it says. It updates to cross position based off its velocity, as well as makes sure that it doesn't go off the edge of the screen. It doesn't bounce because you're controlling it. It just makes sure it doesn't go off the edge of the screen. Okay, we also need to draw the target, the crosshairs. Okay, so this basically just says if the timer is running, which it means the game's not paused, then we're going to update the crosshairs so that they're able to be moved, and then draw them. Okay, so we'll take a look at that here. So we now have crosshairs, and we still have the things moving around. Well, we can't move the crosshairs yet because we haven't accepted any keyboard input. So let's do some keyboard input. Here. Okay, so this basically just allows it to accept WASD keys to increase or decrease the velocity, as well as the space key calls shoot to actually shoot the target. The P key either pauses the game or restarts it, and the N key calls init to start a new game, and then the key up sets the velocities back to 0 so that when we release the key, the target or the crosshair stops moving. Okay, and as you noticed in here, we have the shoot, so we're going to have to put in our shoot code so that it doesn't complain. And we'll put that up here in our helper functions. Okay, the shoot code basically just uses Pythagorean theorem here to check to make sure that the crosshair, the distance from the center of the crosshair to the center of the target is less than the combined radius. And then if it is, it'll update the score based on how many targets are on the screen. The less targets are on the screen, the more score you get. And then of course it removes that target from the target list. Okay, we'll give that a try. Now, one thing I forgot here is I need to actually put in the handlers. Okay, or register the handlers, I should say. There we go. Handlers are registered. I'll give it a try. Okay, we can move now. Hit the space bar to shoot it. We've shot it. There we go. It seems to be working. Okay, great. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to draw the score on the screen so that we can see that we are actually doing something. And I'll grab this whole section of code right here and put that up here in the draw handler. So here you can see we draw the score, and we also have the text in here for drawing whether the game's paused or not. This actually calls the function I have above, draw text pause, rather than the standard canvas drawing text. I won't go into that too much, but like I said, the code is there and you can take a look at that further if you like. So we'll give that a try. So it shows score starts off at 0. So we'll start shooting some targets. Seems to be working good, other than my system's running a little slow right now. Okay. So it looks pretty good. The only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a couple of more buttons here. And we'll add in the code for those buttons. Okay, basically all these buttons are going to do is change the size of the target or the cross to make it more or less challenging. As you can see here, if I change the target size, it gets smaller or bigger, and if I change the crosshair size, it gets smaller or bigger. Once we get into mouse input, we'll probably be able to move the target around faster and be able to track the targets better, so having them a little bit smaller and possibly moving faster would make it a little bit more challenging, because at that point it might get a little too easy to track them, where right now we may want them a little bigger, and we may want to have them not so fast because it's a little harder to control using the keyboard. Okay, that is pretty much it. As you can see here, from this point, once we learn mouse input next week, as well as using images, you could change the background to give it a background, change the targets to ducks, and pretty much be on your way to having duck hunt. Okay, one other thing I haven't shown for what I have in the code is that if I hit P to pause it, it comes up and says pause, and the targets aren't moving anymore, and if I hit P to unpause, it unpauses it and everything starts going again. Also, if you hit N for new game, it starts over. And we'll shoot some targets here, and you can see the score is changed as well. Okay, new game, starts over. Okay, that's a quick run through the program. Most of the stuff in the code should look fairly familiar and fairly similar to what we'll be doing in the Pong project. So you can go through it a little bit better than I ran through it here and see how it works. Enjoy and good luck.